Pristine wilderness areas on Vancouver Island are becoming alarmingly rare. If the present rate of logging and road building is allowed to carry on, all remaining wilderness areas outside of parks will be compromised before the year 1997. The east coast of Vancouver Island has been so severely cut that no substantial areas of old-growth valley bottom forests still exist. The only exception is that of the lower Tsitika Valley. In 1972, the fight began to have the entire valley set aside for its value as being the only intact watershed on the entire east coast of Vancouver Island. As non-timber values have not been recognized, the Tsitika fell under the axe.
Problem is with the Tsitika watershed, and it's been a controversial issue for 20 years almost. At one time it was, of course, the last unlogged watershed on the east coast of the island, so people wanted to preserve the whole watershed. In the mid-70s that was changed, and it was decided to go ahead and log the watershed. Originally, of course, we were trying to keep the log dump out of Robson Bight from down near the estuary, which I think is a good thing, regardless of what has happened or wouldn't have happened. I think it's important that these estuaries should be left alone. I don't think there's too much argument there now. For about 4 or 5 years, a group of people, a group I was involved with, worked with the companies and the government trying to show them what was happening there. We got research information from researchers. We got video or movie footage of the whales doing what they do there, and managed to convince, at that time, Stephen Rogers to have a task force to look at it with government people. And from all that, it was recommended that the reserve, the Robson Bight Mike Big Ecological Reserve, be established as it is today. The Sierra Club, of course, had this very large, well, I shouldn't say very large, this 5,000 acre approximately park proposal to buffer the reserve. It was felt the reserve was too small, and that's basically what the conflict is today, is simply the loggers, the forest companies are saying they want to log all that bottom valley area because of the watershed, the wood that's in there, and certain peoples are saying that there should be a bigger buffer to the reserve. Down in the Bight itself, the roads are slated to come within about 170 meters of the beach in a couple of spots. I'm very concerned about access. I think access would be a big concern. It's pretty hard to keep people out. They'll make their ways down there. We get a lot of people wanting to walk from Telegraph Cove down there now, which is impossible terrain, and they want to walk from here. So if there's roads that get down there very close at all, that could be a problem. And I think very seriously the old growth part of the issue is something that we really have to look at. I'm afraid we don't know enough about our forests from the biological end of things.
Little knowledge exists as to the ecology of the lower Tsitika despite its high profile. In the spring of 1991, the Wilderness Committee established Wolverine Camp in the heart of the lower Tsitika. The camp acted as a base for Wilderness Committee and visiting researchers to instigate studies into this little understood ecosystem. Beaver, woodpeckers, marten, otter, wolf, Owls, salamanders, deer, and bear are but a few of the many wildlife species that are at home in the lower Tsitika. As well, over 500 plant species have now been documented. This just scratches the surface in terms of biological inventories, but what is more important is just how the thousands of species, the geographic and climatic conditions mesh together to create this self-perpetuating ecosystem. Our knowledge of these associations is woefully lacking in light of the scheduled destruction of these few remaining natural areas. The Tsitika is a genetic treasure that needs to be protected to guard against further loss of biodiversity. We must begin to learn from this natural library rather than look at it as a short-term dollar value on the timber market. Biodiversity intricately weaves together the very fabric of life. The little we do know in scientific terms clearly shows that the path we are on could be biologically devastating.
Coming down into this forest, I was really, taken aback by how gentle it is and how different it is to the Walbrand. Each forest seems to have its own personality. It's a very beautiful area. It's very gentle. I mean, even walking through here, you're walking on centuries of moss and humus, and it's like walking almost on a mattress. It's very benign. Just being here is very peaceful. And it's also very saddening when you realize it could all be gone. And I think that myself and British Columbians and the world as a whole will be losing a treasure.
What I found the most interesting was actually the diversity that around every corner was almost its own little micro-habitat. In the whole month there was just surprise after surprise that you didn't count on, that the number of fungi, the number of lichens, things that you wouldn't have even thought were in this range. The area holds probably untold number of surprises for biologists, researchers, in that it hasn't been studied enough to know what is the normal range here and what are the normal occurrences. The abnormal is almost what is normal here. Just the awesomeness of the amount of genetic material that's in this forest.
We would go at dawn and dusk on a daily basis and look for the murrelets flying up and down our valley. And we were trying to identify where some birds might be nesting. And we had an experienced climber come out to go up a couple of our trees trying to find a murrelet nest.
Marbled murrelets are seabirds which rely upon old-growth forests to provide nest sites. The murrelets use the moss-covered branches high in the canopy of these ancient forests to rear their young. In Canada, the marbled murrelet is on the threatened species list due to the disappearance of old-growth habitat used for nesting. Extensive research conducted from the Wolverine camp has indicated that the lower Tsitika is crucial nesting habitat for this threatened seabird. Given that the lower Tsitika is the only remaining unlogged forest of its kind on the entire east coast of Vancouver Island, this ancient forest could be one of the most important habitats to ensure the survival of this species.